All right, today we're tackling a huge question, one that really gets to the heart of our place on this planet. What should our relationship with the natural world actually look like? Are we supposed to be hands-off, or do we have a role to play in managing it? Let's dive in. So this is really the central question our source material poses. I mean, think about it. We do this all the time, from tiny things like salting an icy sidewalk to massive projects like building seawalls. We're constantly shaping the world around us. But where's the line? Are we helping, or are we actually making things worse? First things first, we gotta get one thing straight. Nature isn't some quiet, peaceful landscape painting. Nope, it's a dynamic, sometimes pretty chaotic system. Things like wildfires, floods, huge storms, those aren't weird exceptions. They are the rule. It's how ecosystems hit the reset button and start fresh. Okay, so let's get into this key idea, ecological succession. You can think of it as nature's ultimate comeback plan. Right, so after a big fire scorches a forest, it doesn't just stay a wasteland. First, you get these hardy little plants popping up. Then come the grasses, then some shrubs, and eventually, over time, new trees start reaching for the sky. It's this beautiful, slow, natural process of recovery. And here is where it gets complicated. A wildfire burning in some super remote, untouched forest, that's just part of the cycle. But when that exact same fire is roaring towards a neighborhood, well, that's a full-blown catastrophe. And because we humans have built our homes pretty much everywhere, these totally natural events suddenly have huge, life-threatening consequences. It really forces our hand. So, with this constant clash between our communities and nature's cycles, what are we supposed to do? Well, the author we're looking at makes a really strong case for human intervention. So let's pull that argument apart and see how it's built. Think of this as a little blueprint for how a solid argument works. You start with a big, central claim. That's the main point the author is trying to convince you of. And then you back that claim up with solid reasons and, actual facts. So let's see how our author does this. First up is the claim. This is the whole point of the piece, the one big idea they want you to walk away with. It's the author planting their flag and saying, here's what I believe. So what is it? What's the central claim here? And there you have it. The author is arguing that we absolutely have to manage nature. But pay attention to that super important word in there, careful. This isn't about domination, not at all. It's about thoughtful, smart, informed intervention. So how do they back that up? Let's check out the evidence. Okay, our first case study, wildfires. And wow, this is a perfect example of how our best intentions can sometimes go completely sideways. It's a story about how we learned that fighting against nature is often a losing battle, and working with it is a much smarter path. You can see this massive shift in thinking right here. After this enormous fire in 1910 called the Big Blowup, people were terrified. The policy became dead simple. Put out every single fire immediately. For decades, that was the goal. Total fire suppression. But then, in the late 20th century, scientists had this jaw-dropping realization. This policy wasn't stopping big fires. It was actually causing them. And here's exactly why that old policy was such a disaster. See, by stamping out all those small natural fires, we were unknowingly letting all the fuel, dead leaves, fallen branches, everything, just pile up on the forest floor for decades. Our forests basically became giant tinderboxes, just waiting for a spark. So when a fire did start, it wasn't a small, manageable one. It was a monster. So it turns out the solution wasn't no fire, it was smart fire. These days, forest managers use what are called controlled burns to basically copy the natural fire cycle. It carefully burns away all that excess fuel, which not only prevents those massive, catastrophic fires, but also helps the whole ecosystem reboot and thrive. It's a perfect example of the careful management the author is talking about. All right, for our second case study, we're leaving the forest and heading to the coast. Let's talk about barrier islands. They're beautiful, right? People love to live there. But they are also one of the most constantly changing and, honestly, unstable environments you can find. The best way to think about barrier islands is like they're rivers of sand. They're always on the move, being built up by waves in one spot and washed away in another. The source text makes a great point that they're stuck in a very early stage of succession because they're constantly getting reset by big storms. By their very nature, they are not permanent. So if you've built a town on one of these moving sandbars, how do you protect it?
Well, you've basically got two philosophies. On the one hand, you can build hard structures like giant seawalls. They look tough, but they're basically fighting against nature. They block that natural flow of sand and can end up making erosion even worse just down the coast. On the other hand, you have restorative management, like beach nourishment, which is literally pumping new sand back onto the beach. It's an approach that works with the island's natural system, not against it. And you can see that idea right here in action. Now, it's not cheap, and it's not a one-and-done fix, but beach nourishment rebuilds the beach, which protects homes from waves, and it also expands the habitat for all sorts of local critters. It's another home run for this idea of careful management that helps both us and the ecosystem.
So, we've looked at fire in the forests and sand on the coast. What's the big takeaway? Well, the evidence seems to point to a really clear pattern. When we try to just stop nature in its tracks, to dominate it, it almost always backfires. But when we try to work with its natural cycles, we get much, much better results for everyone. Let's just quickly wrap up the main points here. Number 1, nature is always on the move. Number 2, our communities are often built right in the path of that change. And number 3, and this is the big one, clumsy attempts to control nature, like trying to stop every fire, can make things way worse. But thoughtful, science-based management can actually protect us and help nature thrive. The goal isn't conquest, right? It's coexistence. And all of this leaves us with this final, really critical question. We live just about everywhere on this planet, so just sitting back and doing nothing isn't really an option anymore. The real challenge, the art of it, is finding that delicate balance, knowing when our help is actually helpful and when it's just making things worse. Definitely something to cheer on. Thanks for listening.